2 years have passed since the original Vikings ended. Who would have thought we would get a sequel so soon after that with this year's Vikings Valhalla? And now we've got confirmation of renewal for a second and third season and who's going to be a regular. Here's what we know about Florian Munteanu and his role in season 2 of the show. First off, who's Florian Munteanu? Munteanu is a German-Romanian actor who spent much of his life in Germany, where he would attain his undergraduate degree. But as his thesis reflected, which was on the structure of boxing in Germany, he was always dedicated to the sport of boxing. He competed under the name Big Nasty and would regularly post videos of himself training online. That would lead to his lucky break in the Hollywood film industry, as Sylvester Stallone had been actively looking online for a European actor to play the primary antagonist of Creed II and saw the actor as a great fit for the role. That initial role has since led to a number of others in the industry, with Munteanu playing an antagonist in Marvel's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and the lovable psycho Craig in Eli Roth's upcoming Borderlands video game adaptation. Now, he's set to become a major character on the small screen with his role in Season 2 of Vikings Valhalla, which we think is going to send his popularity skyrocketing. Who's he playing? Considering the fact that Munteanu is, well, a huge dude, we expected him to play a warrior or a fighter of some sort. We know typecasting shouldn't be a thing, but come on, the man was born to play the role of an intimidating warrior character, and the casting crew of Vikings Valhalla clearly thought the same. Munteanu was, in fact, chosen to play the role of the 11th century Byzantine general known as George Maniakes. It's definitely a step up from his role as a foot soldier and a boxer, and as a general, he's likely going to have a lot more chances to show off his acting chops. George Maniakes was said to be an imposing individual, standing so tall that many thought he could have been a giant. He was also a vicious warrior, and we already know that Munteanu has experience in being just that and selling it on screen. But where does Maniakes fit in the epic story of Vikings Valhalla? Next, the end of the Viking Age. Much of the original Viking series was heavily dramatized, keeping many aspects of the history of the Viking Age intact while embellishing it by introducing unverified relationships and interactions between characters that might never have been in the same place. It made for exciting television while providing insight into some actual historic events. The same goes for the new series, which takes place 100 years after the events of the first series. It's a time of great unrest, and it showcases the decline of the Viking Age. The story revolves around a number of figures that have been pulled from periods quite close to each other, though these individuals don't necessarily have the chance to meet in real life. So it's likely that we're going to see Maniakes in some situations that he might not have been involved in, but serve to make the events in the series more exciting. So what's happening during this unsettling period for the Norsemen? Well, much of the series takes place in what's known as the global North Atlantic, an area and network of interconnected cultures that places Scandinavians in a much more diverse background, unlike the mostly all-white ethnic areas seen in the past season. At this point in the history of the Norsemen, much of the European world was aware of their existence and their lust for land and power. Will Maniakes fight against our leads? The main antagonists to the seat of power at Constantinople were the Rus, whom we saw fighting alongside Ivar the Boneless in Season 6 of Vikings. The Rus were Swedes who had taken to the Middle East, unlike their Danish and Norwegian counterparts that had ventured to Western Europe. Though there were attempts to breach the walls of Constantinople across 100 years, they never managed to make a dent. It was only when Vladimir the Great offered 6,000 Viking mercenaries to help defend Constantinople that the Rus finally made their way into the city. The emperor of the Byzantine Empire was so impressed by the ferocity of their fighting that he offered them the chance to be his personal bodyguard and defend the city. It's likely that, as one of the main characters of the series is the Norse explorer Leif Erikson, we might get a close look into Constantinople as a result of this introduction of Vikings into the city. Perhaps our main characters will fight alongside the Byzantines, and that's how Maniakes will be introduced to the show, not as an antagonist, but as someone we're actively rooting for. Only time will tell how Munteanu will be portrayed in the show, as a nemesis or as an ally. Now in other news, Vikings Valhalla Season 2 release date. Despite the show debuting February of this year and the announcement of its renewal coming in March, it turns out that the show's second season had already begun production last year, and in fact, the second season had also finished production later in the same year. So we might actually be getting more Valhalla much sooner than we expected. Unfortunately, there's no official release date. However, because we know that the season is in the final phases of production, there's a possibility that we might get it later this year. We know that's really optimistic, but it wouldn't be the first time that a show has released 2 seasons in the same year. Even if this isn't the case, at most, we're looking at a release sometime early in 2023. We also know that the show has also been greenlit for a 3rd season, so there's ample reason for us to get excited about a quick launch cycle. The 3rd season is set to begin filming in the summer of this year, as the editing of the 2nd season has already been completed. All we have to do now is wait. What we need to see in Season 2. After the season finale of the new Vikings series, you're probably left with a lot of questions. There are a lot of loose ends that need to be addressed, and we hope that we get some answers quickly once the new season ships out. One of the main things we desperately want to know is where Harald and Freydis went after the loss at Kattegat, the throne of power that the legend Ragnar Lothbrok held. Harald was seriously injured in that fight, and Freydis helped him escape after seeing that he'd put his life on the line to get intel on Jarl Kare's plans. Their relationship seemed to be on the rocks after Harald apparently switched sides, but we're glad they got things sorted out. However, we still have no idea where they're off to, and we really need to know. We also need to see the aftermath of Leif's anger at the end of his arc in this season. We've constantly been hearing about his father's anger and violence, and it was clear that the legacy was taking a toll on Leif. He was constantly being held accountable for the sins of his father, and that definitely weighed heavily on him. At the end of this season, we see that actually come out of Leif himself, that rage we've only heard tales of. He had just lost his lover to Harald's brother Olaf, and his pain came out in full force. We're left wondering if this is going to lead to a sharp change in his demeanor, and if it's going to result in Leif becoming just like his father, Eric the Red. One of the last things we're really interested in is knowing the outcome of Queen Algifu's betrayal. Canute had secretly married Queen Emma of England while he was still married to Algifu, who learned that he had done so from Olaf. That hit her hard, and to get him back for that betrayal and sin, she tried to keep his ships away from him as they learned of a Wend invasion in Denmark. Unfortunately for Algifu, Queen Emma and Forkbeard put a stop to that and managed to secure Canute's ships in time for him to leave and fight back the Wend invasion. That's how we left that sticky situation, and nothing was resolved for Queen Algifu. We're left wondering if Forkbeard or Emma are going to punish Algifu, but it might be a little hard considering she is still technically the queen. It's more likely that we'll be seeing Canute come back from his battles in the Danish homeland and deal with the situation himself. Regardless, Queen Algifu is definitely going to have to answer for her crimes against the crown, but we hope she comes out of it in one piece. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts on the new sequel series so far? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.